The latest ones are alpha. So
Alpha.
Gen Z comes after millennials. A lot of people think Gen Zs are young, but Gen Zs are 20 now.
Yeah.
20, I think 18 there.
Gen Zs are also in their 30s right now. I can't. Yeah,
Bruh, can you imagine?
Yeah.
They are. They're now 30 actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
30 and 31.
Yeah.
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 Then Gen Alpha are the babies.
Hey everyone, welcome back to We Need to Talk podcast, podcast by Gather Now Network, where we elevate conversations by having guests who share their experiences here and there, so that you can pick a thing or two, especially you as a young adult who's going through this world by going through different experiences. So the guests that we bring here on the podcast are the ones that have lived experiences, or maybe are going through experiences that you think that you might learn a thing or two. Today's guest is one that I've been wanting to have on for a long time. I kind of feel like almost every time we bring on a guest, we say that we've wanted to have this guest for a long time. But no, seriously, this one here is a very talented and serial entrepreneur. she might say she's not serial because in part of her conversations and interviews and everywhere, she says she landed just into entrepreneurship, but I kind of feel like she's doing a great job in entrepreneurship. Her name is Belinda Katumba, and her mission as a social entrepreneur is using her gifts to help people feel safe and seen through connecting through conversations. She began Can We Talk podcast in 2019 while pursuing her master's business administration in Canada as a way to have meaningful conversations while staying connected with people back home in Uganda. The podcast success led to its evolution into social enterprise with an introduction to Can We Talk conversation cards and spaces, which is something that we're going to delve into and understand why these cards, why these spaces. And she's also a digital marketing and branding consultant, as well as the director of Rift Valley Explorer, a destination management company. She's a lover. Lover? Oh, she's a love of life. Hi, Belinda.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to We Need to Talk podcast. I'm so happy to have you on today's episode, really.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored. We were talking about how our podcast, well, mine is no longer a podcast, but has similar names. So I'm like, full circle moment.
Yeah, like it's something that you know how like in the world, like things can feel different but also similar at the same time. So this is like the full circle moment, like you've said, and I hope today's episode brings that circle moment to a reality of everything that we're going to be talking about here today. Speaking of reality of things, I have a simple clip that I have to begin with. If you can get and watch that clip with me here.
I'm also curious about this clip. Oh, God. Had a feeling. So am I supposed to play it?
Just
There was a
just
time
press play.
when
Just press play for us.
my family and I were not staying together. And I remember that time we were guest before. You were a baby. I was in Barara. You guys were in Mengo. And it was really us. I could remember where Mami, for example, said, "Ninamu lukumi rero lukenda kula mataga perita." And that's all she had. So it was very stressful because, here you have a family where you think it should be responsible. By then you can't meet their needs. But even where you are, you are not meeting your own needs.
Sometimes I forget that conversation lives on the internet.
Yeah, we found it. It's always there. But the reason why I play that clip is most times we tend to, introduce people because of their history online or their biography online. But the reason why I just really play that clip is for you to help us, make us understand who you are. And if we were to go back to that Belinda who was getting that milk, who is she and how far has she come?
Hey, that's a very loaded question. So who that Belinda is, I think, well, that's, first of all, anyway, that Belinda, I think, in many ways hasn't changed. Belinda as a child was very sensitive, very emotional. I'm the last born, first of all, in my family. So we're a family of 5 girls, well, now 4 girls and 1 boy, and I'm the last born. So I think in a lot of ways, just naturally by birth order, I was sheltered a lot. But then also, I was very independent. I always did things by myself. But also I always had like a large group of friends. So I feel like in so many ways, the Belinda you guys see today is the same Belinda. Sensitive, very in tune in terms, I hate the word empath, but let me say empath, like very in tune with other people's needs. I used to love reading books. Up to now, that's something that I love till now. Like you would find me in my room reading books for hours on end. In school, I was the only difference is that I'm very passionate and I do things, but in school I was a very dormant child. I won't lie. I was one of those who came, passed exams, enjoyed time with her friends and went. I didn't do many extracurricular activities. I think because my gifts were a lot in academics and that's the main thing that the system pushed. But I think everything else is pretty much the same. That's the Belinda that he's talking about.
In this clip, it's your dad. And he's sharing a very vulnerable moment in there because the fact that he opens up, there was a time when we didn't have this and I missed being with my family. That moment, basically you sharing that moment with your dad, what did it mean to you in that moment, especially recording that video or recording that conversation? Because I believe, for those who haven't watched the episode is online on YouTube on Can We Talk podcast, Belinda's podcast or channel. But I believe it was so touching when he was sharing that. How did you feel when he was sharing that?
Yeah, it was also the first time that I was hearing it. Being the last born, again, I don't think I had a recollection of the family still struggling, right? Because of course, obviously I was a child. But in terms of having the conversation with my dad, so for context, for those who don't know, my dad is a public figure in Kampala, in Uganda, really. And for a long time, I did all my work under pseudonym. When I started the Can We Talk podcast, I used to go by Muna Kampala. Even when I continued to do the Can We Talk business, I always used just my first name. Not to distance myself from who my father is, because I'm proud of who he is and the work that he has done, but simply because it was important for me to have a name based on my work and my accomplishments rather than his. And then when I felt like I had reached that place, like Can We Talk was in a place where Can We Talk will be my legacy, will be part of my legacy anyway. And then I felt it was important to have a conversation with him simply because of also the role he plays in his community and in community. So having that conversation was very important for me because also because of the position he's in the country, you never see him in such a vulnerable state, expressing things about his family, about his feelings. And it was very important for me that he came on because of also the work that we do. The work that we do as Can We Talk around vulnerability and authenticity. I think it is important for me also to live what we preach. So having that conversation was very important for me. Hearing that was, if you watch the video, you'll see that it was the first time that I was hearing that. And yeah, interesting things again. Guess the Can We Talk cards are working. Yeah.
It's something that we really struggle with, especially in Africa, or let me just zero it down to Uganda, whereby we find it very difficult for us children to have like in tune conversations with our parents besides just hey, hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. But like really having those deep conversations, it's very hard, very, very hard. Like to find a parent who is seated down with a kid and they're having that conversation, especially today. And again, I think that's why your cards are very, very important because they spark conversations. They spark that need to talk about something. And for parents who are finding it difficult to have conversations with their kids, what do you advise them to do in today's world that is full of, the attention span is what? 2 seconds right now?
You have 2
1.4?
seconds to to hook me or you're gone.
Yeah, or you're gone.
Yeah. I think I'll start
Yeah.
first of all by saying, because that clip is out there and the YouTube video is out there, I don't want to paint an unrealistic photo of the relationship I have with my parents. I think I really agree that in our generation and in our culture, we're not used to connecting with our parents beyond what I call role-based performance. So they play their role as a father. You get to play your role as a daughter, and your mother plays her role as a mother. And those are the contexts in which you usually talk, right? That's the way in which they know you. And as much as we had that conversation, that was me also pushing my father out of his comfort zone. But I just want to start by saying that, because a lot of times when you see things on the internet, it's very easy to just be like, oh, those people have this. No, it's hard, even for me. I think with your question around how parents can have these conversations, even how children can have this conversation with their parents, I can say that even just sitting down for that conversation for me was scary. So I think it's okay, first of all, to acknowledge the fear, the weird fear around pushing things that have always been a certain way out, moving out of that comfort zone. It's okay to acknowledge the fear. I think trying to act like, oh yeah, you'll go talk to your parent and everything will be so lovely. No, it may not. You may ask your father a question and it may go left because you may hear some things you've never heard before. But I think first it's sitting with that acceptance of this is going to be hard, but is it worth it? Yes, it is, in terms of relationship building. And then the second thing I would say is, with the Can We Talk cards, one of the things that people are always asking us, do you come up with all these questions yourselves? And we're like, yes, we do come up with the questions ourselves. And a big part of that is around structuring a question because of the culture we're in. So our parents are very unconfrontational. I can't go to my father, let's say I'm trying to talk about a conflict we've had, going and saying, why did you do this to me? Is going to activate his fight or flight, because that's not how they were raised. For them, they were raised that a child doesn't talk back. So if I'm changing the norm with that, I have to be very careful around the structure of the question. When you did this, I felt hurt. So if I communicate that or when you did this, what was your thought process behind it? I'm not leading our parent, like the parent, into a place, or even the child, by the way. A lot of us, if we're talking to teenagers, the way you structure the question helps the other person receive it in a different light. You're not leading with blame. You're not leading with confrontation. So I think question structure is very important. And then also timing. So for example, with that conversation, it was something that I don't want to say I trained, but it's like you let them know that, I want to talk to you this evening. Or An easier way is to organize another activity. That's something I've seen with the Can We Talk spaces that we're doing. With men and also the older generation, sometimes it's easier if the conversation is being had as a second thing. So either you're going to ask your parent, you're going to join them in the kitchen if your mom is cooking, and that's where you're going to have the conversation rather than sitting down opposite her and saying, Mommy, I have to have a conversation with you now. That's very, So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the timing of the conversations is also really important. Have them on a relaxed day, maybe on Sundays when they're chilling after church. They've just got the blessing of the Lord. That's when you bring in your hard conversation. So I think all those things come down to emotional intelligence, a bit reading the room, reading the tone, because, you may want to say something, but because your parent is very sensitive to tone, your message is not received. Yet it could have been received if the tone was different. Yeah. I don't know if that sort of... Yeah, but those are some of the things I've seen with Can We Talk.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense, for real. I mean, watching that video for me, or even just like that simple clip that we began with, it just reminds me of my relationship with my dad, which is very good. My relationship with my parents, especially my dad and mom. But we never, let me see. I really can't recall a day that I sat down with my dad and had a connection in terms of conversation, like deep. It's always like surface kind of, conversation with him. I mean, he cares. I know he loves me. I love him. But then, like to have that, the way you had that conversation with him, especially on camera, even, not even less.
And can I say that was among our I think my first time having such a conversation with my dad as well.
Yeah.
But one of the things that really made it easier is the cards. And this is, I'm not even just blowing my own trumpet, but in terms of feedback that we've gotten with families especially. I think it's easier for the question to be coming from the game, from the card. It's not from me. You know?
It sounds like, different. It sounds, it looks like you.
It's like,
it's
I
someone
picked the
else
card.
asking it rather than you.
Yes, it's someone else. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that I'm finding with the feedback we're getting with families where it really helps culture-wise. It's like, the question is not coming from me. The card said we all have to answer. Then they'll also give their own answer within what they're comfortable giving. But I know that thing where it's like, they love you, but it's just very... It's very that love of, have you eaten? Yes. Again, role-based and duty-based connection, right? Like, are you okay? Are you alive? Are you healthy? Other than that, it's like, what do we talk about?
Vulnerability. I've had like guests here and we've talked about like vulnerability, but it's always different with every guest, how they view vulnerability and how they go about it. And you as Belinda, you are vulnerable because you're the mindset, or you're the mind or brain behind these cards. And to do this, you have to be vulnerable at some point. Like for you to ask, you've talked about like the way you ask a question prompts how the response is going to be. And I believe now for you to come up with a certain question on these cards or on these in these conversations, you have to be vulnerable by yourself. Maybe the question that I'm asking here is, what's vulnerability to you? How does it manifest in your life?
So contrary to what you're saying, I am just recently finding it easier to be more vulnerable. And
tell me more about that.
I think there's this belief that I have that as creatives, a lot of times we create from, it has been said that we create from our pain, but I would say we create from our shadow. And I think for me, Can We Talk is that, in the sense of, so as I said, I'm a very sensitive person, highly sensitive, and having grown up highly sensitive in our culture, you can tell how that went, right? It wasn't received as easily because what umwana banange all the time, like, it's just it teaches you suppression. But within that suppression, I think
Right.
there's a part of me that then just got so in tune with other people's feelings, and I got good at reading other people's feelings. Well, for me, I shut off, because with vulnerability, it exposes you. Also, having grown up in a family whose father is known public, I think it also teaches you to sort of protect yourself, let me say, right? So I think Can We Talk was created out of the shadow of me, who really yearns for that place, because I am a sensitive person. Also, my biggest way of connecting is through emotional intimacy. So when I created Can We Talk, I think it took me about a year before I played the cards myself with my friends, because I could come out with the questions because of how in tune I am with other people's feelings and just how I see the world. But answering the questions was difficult for me, which is where the vulnerability is, because the vulnerability is in the answer of the question, right? And I think most people, when they hear vulnerability, they think oversharing, which I don't think is the same thing. I think vulnerability is anything, for me, is anything that I do that puts me out of my comfort zone, that allows you to see a part of myself that maybe I have shame around, or that it's just allowing me to see a part of me. The length and the depth of that is dependent on environment and the person. Meaning, the vulnerability I have with you on this podcast may not be the same level of vulnerability I reach with my friends, right? Vulnerability doesn't mean that if I come on here, I need to share everything with you. No, I could be vulnerable on here and share parts of myself that people didn't know, or that are true to me, or things that I usually wouldn't share. But I can also choose to share some things within the safety of my friendships. And that's a deeper level of vulnerability. So for me, that's one of the biggest things, that vulnerability is not oversharing. It's just allowing yourself to be seen. And that looks different. For example, our team edition, where you at work, vulnerability doesn't look the same at work as it does at home, because when you're at work, you still have to remember that you're in a workplace and there's politics at play and all these things. But does that mean that you'll never be vulnerable? Maybe vulnerability looks like taking a risk and speaking up about an idea in a meeting, right? Because that's exposing you to rejection. They may reject your idea. So that's vulnerability, but it doesn't mean that I have to cry at work if I'm not comfortable too. So that's my definition of vulnerability.
It's surprising, like it's one thing that I still struggle with, to be vulnerable. I don't think I have been vulnerable to that point that you've just explained. I remember having a conversation with the DOP Dan, and he would ask me, what's something that you share on the podcast that your listeners feel like they're connected to you? I would sit down with that question, and I didn't have an answer, because I feel like it's very, very hard for me to share that part of my life. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I haven't reached that level where I feel like I know what I have to share, and I know what I need to talk about. And it's the essence of like why I started this podcast, because growing up personally, I was we actually you're the last born, I'm the first born, so it's like the opposite.
Oh.
So I never had chance like to. My parents were always like work all the time. I never associated so much with my fellow young people when growing up. I was in boarding school all my life, and it was like basically a solo kind of life. So starting We Need to Talk was like a call for me to, hey, I need to talk to someone. Let me have that part of the life where I can talk to someone. So vulnerability is very...
But then can I say, isn't that being vulnerable? I mean, you may not be on here talking about your things, but I think creativity and putting your creativity out there in itself is an act of vulnerability, because other people are not able to do this. Some people create and keep it hidden because it's, yes, like starting something is also putting yourself in the place of, you have to push the podcast, you have to, and also even seeing the guests that you're bringing, all this is an insight into your brain. You are opening up yourself, even if it's through a form of art.
When you
Right?
put it that way, actually, it makes sense. Though, it makes sense. Like, because even the conversation that you have, it's coming from that part of vulnerability where you are seeking an answer for what you are on a quest for. So it might be another form of vulnerability, like you're highlighting basically, rather than thinking that vulnerability is where you come and share about your, cry art,
And I think even that level of vulnerability has to be built towards, right? Like, even with Can We Talk, when I was still doing the podcast, I wasn't yet, because even with your online audience, with your podcast listeners, you're creating a relationship, right? So 5 years down the road, you may feel more comfortable to even do an episode on yourself, because then you'll be more comfortable, you'll have built that relationship, you'll feel connected to them as well. But this whole thing of, like we're dating, you've come to the first date and now you're telling me all your trauma. That is non-vulnerability. You're trauma dumping on me. I do not know you. You're a stranger. But like, if we build towards it, like, I really think this whole thing of vulnerability sometimes is being pushed in a way that's like, it's not realistic, because vulnerability is like putting myself in a risk. Why would I just come for and tell you everything? Yeah.
Moving on from vulnerability, I think you're speaking about first dates, and that's what would you say is
You
a good
tell
first
us.
date? Like, how, just paint a picture for us. Like, how do you see it going? Like, okay, books to count as a first good date in your books.
A good first date with someone that I've never met.
Yeah.
Completely.
You've been talking maybe mysteriously online, and now you've decided to go over for a cup of coffee or lunch or whatever.
So first of all, he has to have planned the date. I don't know. You need to tell us, what's with men these days not planning dates? Guy asks you on a date. He tells you, I want to take you out. You tell him, yeah, I'm available. Then he sits back and he waits. He wants you to pick a place. He can't even suggest a date or time. Me from there already, the energy I'm showing up with has changed. So plan, I think it's very good to show that, okay, this person is being intentional with a date. Because if we've been talking a little bit, you could be like, okay, maybe she'll like this. So come to me with a plan. Please, men, have plans.
Man.
don't say, you pick. It's like, no, can I take you out on Friday to this place? Come with a plan. I tell Linda. And then, okay, now we've planned. I think for first dates, personally, I like a little activity. I think sometimes it's too intense to go direct to like a full dinner date, like we're seated across from each other intensely and we're interrogating ourselves. It's like, no, maybe we could go. I don't like movies, but now there are a lot of like art things to do. Take me to a nice band or something. Like there be something that's like the spice to the connection. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then obviously talk. men don't ask questions. That's the other thing. Please ask questions. You'll go on a date. Like for 3 hours, you'll be with a guy. And the whole time you've asked him about his work, who he is. Not once has he said, and you? like, like, not once. Like the whole time he has enjoyed just talking about himself. And then he's like, I don't know why I love this date so much. Because you got to talk about yourself. So yeah, I think also in the conversation is flowing, banter is good. It's not just on one person to make the conversation flow. The activity is flowing. Yeah, I think that's a good first date. For you, what do you think?
I think a good first date for me would look like if we were to do activities, they don't have to be activities I mean, like, okay, maybe you've gone to bowling or you've gone to karting or whatever. It doesn't have to be something that is so exploratory in terms of like me showing that weird part of me on the first day. But then again, when you come out that way and hear people like Simon Sinek, who highlights the point of being authentic on the first day, like why should you pretend? Why do I have to pretend to show you the good part of me that you're not going to see that part ever again, probably just because I'm trying to amuse you? But I think the good first date should be something that shows a little bit of me. I should put down this pen. Okay. Shows a little bit of me who I really are, but also taps into your life in terms of like, can I be able to see who, let's say, Belinda is, what do they like, what do they do? Because it's very easy these days to like have a conversation via phones, text, but the moment you're seated like close
in
or
person,
in front, like you don't know where words go. Again, that's what you're saying, like we men
and I
don't
think that's
talk.
why activities will help, because when you're doing, let's say we are go-karting, or let's say there's a band playing, first of all, I get to see the real part of you. So if it's a competitive thing, I can see how you are. Are you finding it fun? Are you taking it serious? And it's not that it's wrong, but it's giving me information that's honest about you. Because I think sometimes with conversations, when Drake said it's real when you are who you think you are.
Yeah.
I think sometimes in conversation we say things from who we think we are, but we really are not.
Yeah.
You say it from who you hope to be. Like, I wake up very early in the morning and it's
But
like,
you don't in reality.
I invited you for a breakfast date and, So I feel like activities let you see a glimpse into who the character of the person without it being like they're curating it. Because even if they're doing like painting, you'll see for them if they paint outside the lines, or if they're the kind who goes very in detail, such things, as opposed to, now I'm opposite you. Yes, you've been telling me all these things on WhatsApp.
So what's up?
It's like,
but also
so
like,
much pressure.
Like for me to consider that this first date has been good, I would say I don't like a girl or woman who talks so much on the first date. Like you're just talking. I would just be looking at you like this and I'm just praying, okay, how soon can we get out of here?
Like she's just talking about herself and whatever, and she has
like,
not tried.
Yeah, but speaking about
I know what you're talking about, though.
Speaking about talking, Belinda, you've been able to build spaces. The first thing that I need to ask you about spaces, how do you define spaces? Are they like buildings? Are they, communities, like online communities? How do you define these spaces? If someone hears you talk about spaces.
Oh, okay. So the way I define spaces is very just our brand, the way I do it in our brand is when I talk of, we always talk of spaces and then events.
Okay.
It's just a distinction that we make as Can We Talk. Events are more of like sometimes we do these ticketed one-off events. Now, like Georgie's mentorship series was a ticketed event. Women's wellness was an event because, it has that event thing.
Yeah.
But spaces for us are more about the community and the people that come to them. So you'll find the spaces are more regular. So for example, our support group is a space. We used to have Chill and Connect, which was a space that was support group is about mental health, but Chill and Connect was about chilling and connecting, but it was a space. So for us, the space is about community and the energy it brings to it, because even with connection, we're very big on every space has to feel different. The venue affects the connection that's going to happen.
Yeah.
The setup affects the space that's going to happen. It affects how people connect. If I bring you, for example, Chill and Connect used to be at a bar. There was a reason for that. Well, the support group for mental health is always in a place that's more, nature and more calm, and this simply because it affects how people commune. So the spaces are more regular for us because they're about community and energy.
Yeah. So basically, it's not about a building, or it's about basically like a theme of community that you intend to serve. If I understand that right.
Yes, hopefully one day we do have a physical space. That's the dream. But for now, where our people are, it's like church. We say more than two are gathered or whatever. That's a church. Even us.
Jesus, God is everywhere.
Yeah. So as long as we've gathered our community there,
Yeah.
it's a space. Obviously, we also collaborate with a lot of amazing physical places in Kampala, because collaboration is where it's at.
So for me, who's just, watching this, and I really want to create a very impactful space, but also to start a meaningful conversation. And by conversation, I mean, it could be with my mom, my dad, my friend, my partner. How do I start?
That's a very wide question.
Let's narrow it down. How do I start a conversation with my best friend who has, this is going to be weird, who has cheated on me?
Why is your best friend cheating on you? Are we in situationships?
Basically, your best friend has cheated with your friend. That's what I mean. Does that narrow a bit?
Yeah, because I was
down?
like, why is your best friend cheating on you? Are we in friends with benefits situations?
Yeah.
Anyway, so in terms of hard conversations, can I term it as those or difficult conversations in quotes? First of all, much harder than it's going to seem when we say it, because I think there's a lot of emotion. I think the first thing is grounding yourself. This also comes in with spaces. For me, even with Can We Talk, as the facilitator, as a host, your energy is going to affect the whole conversation. So if you're still angry, first sit with your anger, process it. If you need to journal it out, do it. I think you have to be in a grounded space other than just having the conversation when you're heated, right? Because that conversation will go very different depending on how regulated you are. And then when you come to the conversation, I think it's also very important for you to understand, what do you want out of the conversation? Do you want reconciliation? Do you want to just express yourself? Because if you just want to express your anger, then you know why you're having the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And all these expectations, I think, have to be more from your end, because you also have to understand that you cannot control the other person's reaction.
Right.
A lot of us, you come to a hard conversation, even with our parents, and you're thinking that my parent, if I tell them this, they're going to apologize. No, they may not. And they're allowed not to. So are you prepared if the person doesn't play according to your script? Because they may not. And this is something I learned in therapy as well. You could play out the scenarios before. Okay, if if they're not apologetic, how would that make me feel? How am I reacting in that case? So that also your brain doesn't go directly to its default setting when they don't play according to your script. You've sort of gone through all the scenarios. And then the last thing is what I mentioned before, which is language. The biggest thing is always, so there are two sentences that I think, I don't know if I had them on a podcast. So one is always saying, not putting it on the other person. You cheated with my boyfriend and this. It's always saying, when you did this, you made me feel this way. So that they're seeing, you're clearly stating the action and how it made you feel, other than saying, you're a bad person, you're a bad friend, this. The person then gets defensive. You're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
The other way is to always say, I'm trying to be better at this. Right? So it already, just by saying that, it puts the person in a less defensive mode. So I'm trying to be better at expressing myself when I'm angry. So I need to talk to you about something that you did.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's already letting the other person know that I'm not approaching you to put blame. I'm approaching you because this is something new that I'm trying to, like, it lets them know your intention beforehand.
Yeah.
And then you just want to remove those defense, the defense
walls,
first go
yeah.
down. Yeah. Yeah. I think language is the biggest way we can do that.
Do we really, do you think we have that language in Kampala or in Uganda? Like, do we really understand
I
that language?
genuinely think that we may not be there, but I think we are making our way there. I'm a millennial, the last of the millennials, 94. And I think people think millennials are young, but we're all in our 30s now to around 40s. I think millennials, we grew up right in the middle of, the boomers and then Gen Zs. So with us, there's like a mixed bag. It's like some people are able to have this conversation. Some are fully like, no, they fully took what we were taught when we were younger, and it's hard to get out of it. But the Gen Zs, they're speaking their mind. They are letting you know. So I think now in Kampala, obviously Kampala also has a lot of avoidance.
Yeah.
A lot of us would rather just drink, party it away, not talk. But I do think we can't fail to acknowledge that there are at least more of these conversations happening.
Yeah. For a fact that millennials are, avoiding conversations, then Gen Zs are like, spot on. Whether you hate me or like me, I'll just tell you whatever I'm thinking. It just leaves me wondering where the gap is between, okay, boomers. What's that? What's the difference between boomers and the age difference between boomers and Gen Zs?
Correct.
Like
I don't know. All I know is boomers is our parents. So these are people who may be like 60 and up, 60, 80, those ones.
So probably I'm talking about the Gen Alpha. Alpha? Who are these between 2000 and then above? 2001?
The latest ones are Alpha. So Gen Z comes after millennials. A lot of people think Gen Zs are young, but Gen Zs are 20 now.
Yeah.
20, I think 18 there. Then Gen Alpha are the ones.
Gen Zs are also in their 30s right now. I kind of. Yeah,
bruh, can you imagine?
Yeah.
They are. They're now 30 actually. Yeah, 30 and 31.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then Gen Alpha are the babies.
Yeah. But the question that I was going to ask over there was, how do they differentiate between just talking and being heard?
That's a very, very good question. Like, how are you just talking versus being heard? I think it comes down to communication. So talking is, I think, hard. So some of the things that we talked about, where you're thinking about the receiver of the message, I think sometimes also plays into just talking, right? Like, so if I'm communicating to a friend versus if I'm communicating to a parent, they may both have annoyed me, but I need to, the way I present that information to the parent will help me be heard, or I could have just talked to
Yeah.
them. And then also, I think there's something with emotional intelligence in there. I think sometimes it's okay not to talk. By the way, as someone who pushes for talking, I don't think talking is the answer to everything. I think sometimes it's okay to read the room, to know. It's very wise to know when to be quiet, because that can also be communication in itself. Yeah, it can be. I don't need to, like, maybe you've talked about something so much that maybe the only way you can be heard is through action, right? So, or through changed behavior. So I don't think that talking is the only way. And I think sometimes it's that emotional intelligence of, is this something I need to say? Even the medium in which you need to say it. Maybe it could come off better. Maybe someone could receive it better if you wrote it, you know? So versus if you said it verbally. So I think all that plays a role. I don't think it's all about just talking.
Okay.
I really don't think talking is the answer to everything. Sometimes it's reading someone's body language, you know? Yeah.
No, that's a very good differentiation, because for someone who, both of us actually, who are pushing like, okay, we need to talk, let's talk, can we talk? Sometimes, sometimes talking doesn't necessarily mean you opening your mouth and start talking. Sometimes being silent is also like a form of communication out there, and you just, using your action. Let's speak about mental health. Something that I believe right now is picking up. We have like really made, I don't want to say a lot of noise, but for lack of a better word, we are being vocal about it. Mental health. And for a community like Uganda, if you speak about mental health, I barely think out of 10, 3 people understand what mental health means. And for me, that's a very big concern. And again, like you having that platform that advocates for that, this platform that advocates for that, how simply can we explain to Ugandans, especially for that person who is, seeking that answer of trying to understand what mental health is in the most simplest way without even using the word mental health? How simply would you put it for them to understand?
I think this is where I failed English, because it's really about the health of your of your mind. Like when we hear mental health, a lot of times we think of mental illness.
That's the thing. Like we
Right?
just think mental
Yeah,
health,
it's just
mental
like-
illness,
Yeah.
and we're
When it's really just how healthy is your mind, and that lies on a spectrum, and it could be different on different. It's just like how healthy is your physical body. Today you may wake up with a headache, and it doesn't mean that you are sick. You may have a headache that day, And I think for me, I feel like we are having the conversation more. My pushback is I feel like people in Uganda these days are aware of mental health. Because slowly the language has become, even if you're talking about local language, you'll hear a lot of people say, like it's starting to change in terms of the language. But I think where the gap is the shame. We are okay with talking about mental health from an abstract place. But when it comes home, like if it's your brother, your child, your auntie with the mental illness, with bipolar, then it's held in a karma.
the language changes.
If you are there, the language changes. But on the outside, we could all talk about mental health. But if Belinda shares about her grief, it makes everyone so on edge, because we don't talk about it, but we talk about it, So it's like we're okay with talking about it in abstract, but rarely are we able to bring it home. Like if I say on my platform I've struggled with anxiety, then that's how we're making it more real, because then it's someone who people can see. It's like me and you, and they seem to be doing okay, but they're struggling with anxiety. But mainly people will come and talk about it from an abstract thing. You know, this thing, anxiety, you know? Yeah, so it's like we always talk about it from an angle that's like, it's over there. And I think that's one of the things I've seen with Can We Talk spaces, because over there we can allow people to share from a safe space. And it's like, I remember there's a guy who came for one of our support groups and we were talking about grief. And he didn't know like what we were doing. So when he comes in, eventually he ends up having like a breakthrough and crying and sharing about something he hadn't shared about in a long time. And I remember one of the things he said is, I sat there and I was looking at all these people who are dressed so nice, look so nice, and everyone is just saying, I'm struggling as well, like just in honesty. And a lot of us are not doing that. A lot of us are having that conversation from a textbook way. You know how that textbook talks about something? Yeah, that's how we want to talk about mental health.
Yeah. Grief. You've mentioned grief in there. A few years ago, you lost your sister in a very tragic manner. And that was terrible. But I believe you had to go through grief, and probably that's why I've seen somewhere that's maybe why you had to put a pause on the podcast for purposes of your mental health. How did you ensure that it didn't consume you as a whole? You also talked about therapy, which is something that we Ugandans don't even like tried even to, like take a step towards that. But besides that, how did you consume grief so that you lived with it, basically? Because I want to assume maybe you were very close with her. But you can talk if you can tell us about if you if you don't
I think
mind.
actually this is the first time I'm talking about this on a public platform. But yes, I lost my sister and my grandmother it's coming 5 years ago, in a very tragic way. And I don't know if I can even talk about grief in a past tense. It's not something that I lived with, or it's not something that consumed me. I think it's something that I am living with and I am navigating like presently. Anyone who has gone through grief, especially loss of someone very close to you who changes also your day-to-day life, I don't think it's something you fully ever get over. I thought you go through the 5 stages of grief, the way they talk about them, and then they're done. It's like, nope, every new year is like, whoop, now it's a different phase. In terms of how it didn't consume me, again, I will not say that it didn't. Honestly, it did, but for me, that consuming looked different. So a lot of people think of depression from a place of someone lying in bed for days and they don't wake up, and this. For me, it looked like high functioning depression. I was able to build 3 companies because of grief. It's not even now. It sounds very. But I know a lot of people who are this way as well, whereby you just drown yourself into the work, because for a minute in there you are. And I was lucky because within that I did find my purpose and I have been able to build something that I'm proud of. But it was consuming in that way that I eventually reached burnout because I didn't even have time to sit with those feelings, because my brain's initial reaction was to run away from it, work, put yourself towards something. And that I think also comes from the system that we come in, where it's like, let's keep performing, let's keep working, as long as you're doing well. And also, obviously, with the loss of a sibling, it's different because also there's the grief of your parents, which is different. So I think there's that need to just keep going, especially in the society we
Yeah.
live in. It's like you have to just keep performing. And for me, that's how it manifested. I think recently is when I am starting to find the balance between work and mental health, because for me, work is the way that usually, like, I will throw myself into the work. But now I'm starting to find the balance, starting to find, what does it mean if I'm sad? Can I sit with it no matter how uncomfortable it is? Do I not have to turn it into a purpose? Sometimes it's that thing where it's like everything that you go through, there's a need to turn your pain into purpose. It's like, no, this could just be pain that I hold, you know? So that's a journey that I'm still on for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this, Belinda. I believe it's very difficult to talk about grief because it's something, like you said, you live with every day. I lost my grandma a year ago, and I was here. She was very, very, very close to me. I never processed it until like after maybe 3 weeks. That's when I believe that she's gone. And till that, I'm still processing how I know.
Continue your
No.
thoughts. Why are you
I find
turning
it, I
to
find
anyway?
it, I find it very difficult to talk about her. She was very, very close to me, and she was a very sweet person to me. She, yeah. God.
Trust me, I get it.
I know.
It's okay. Even me, this is the first time I've ever talked about my sister
Yeah.
in 5 years. Before, it was like a no-go area. Like if I'm coming on a podcast, the first thing I would say is the boundary is this. So I pray that you get to it, but I also pray that her soul continues to rest in peace.
May they rest in peace, both
And
of
sorry
them.
for your loss. Yeah.
As we're coming to an end of this conversation, are you hopeful?
Am I
as a person?
hopeful? Yeah, I really am actually. Every day I just be fighting for my life and just staying hopeful. Of course, it goes like this, but yeah, I think I'm a pretty hopeful person. Isn't that all we have? Because if you look around the world, you can just stop living if you don't have hope. For real. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Hope is all we have. That's it. Yeah.
So is there anything that we have not talked about that you feel like we should have talked about?
No, I think maybe I hope you invite me for a longer conversation.
Yeah,
I think for me, I would like to say that also shout out to you. It's one of the things that I found during my work is how important it is to have men in these spaces. Our spaces are among the few spaces that actually attract men to come. Like we have men come in for the support group, but I always feel that there's something that's missing, even if they are able to benefit from the spaces that we do have and the spaces that we create. I think there is always something that's off because their experience of the world will never be the experience I have. Like, even for me, when I go to a male hosted space for mental health, there are some things they'll talk about where I'm like, this person has never experienced being a woman. Like there's some things that they can't speak to or they can't hold space for because they haven't experienced them, right? And I think it is very important for men to start these spaces on their own because, there's that whole thing of, oh, we're leaving the men behind. And I'm like, yeah, men, so start. You start. So I'm really, I just want to give you your flowers for starting this and having a podcast that's around talking, that's men, because men here talking and it's like, aye, I'm out. So yeah, I think I just wanted to talk about that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, we had here one the JR a few weeks ago, and he also highlighted about that, like men talking, like we need to have these spaces that advocate for that so that they can have like a full moment circle of talking and sharing about themselves. But yeah, so there is a norm of the podcast now whereby a previous guest leaves you a question. And the question that was left for you is, how do you define success as a woman?
How do I define success as a woman? I think for me, success currently looks like regulation and abundance. So with that, I mean, as a woman, because women, we live our life in cycles, as you know. And I think the day I'm able to eat the fruit of my work, like get enough money, be making good money, because, we live in a capitalistic society, so I need the money. But from a place that is regulated, from a place where I can create in the cycles of my life. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but that's what for me success is, in the sense of, if I need to rest, if I need a season of rest, I can actually rest. If, as well as, and for me success isn't just like the money, but in terms of like my friends, like, do I have time for my friends? Do I have time for my community? Do I have friends for my time for my family? For me, that's success. How am I able to make money while still being regulated and playing into all these other parts of my life? Is my body healthy? Is my mind healthy? I'm not trying to lose myself out here in pursuit of just money. So for me, I would rather have, like the balanced equation. Like, and the balanced equation will look different at different times of my life. So in some parts of my life, for example, if I have kids, maybe more of my time will go to my kids and my husband compared to my business, but the business is still also there. So sometimes that will look like 3 to this side, but just being able to have that balance for me is what success is.
Wonderful.
And that regulated nervous system, because we are not trying to fall sick.
No.
As women, we have a lot of, you see a lot of statistics around women and autoimmune diseases. And that's simply because we carry a lot of stress. And for me, number one is a regulated nervous system.
That's a good one. Like, if you can avoid getting sick in whatever you're doing, do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. That's a very good response to that question. I'm sure the guest who asked this question is very comfortable with their response to their question. What would be your question?
Oh, I also get to leave a question.
Yeah. What would be your question to that?
Oh God, I wish I had prepared. Let me see. If you woke up as a different person tomorrow, what would be different and what would be the same? In terms of what would you want to be different and what would you want to be the same? If you woke up as the person, actually no, if you woke up as the person you want to be tomorrow in your future, what would be different? What would be the same?
That's a very interesting question. That's really interesting, especially in today's world. I can't wait to see what the response would be like.
Me too. I also can't wait to see who the next guest will be.
I wish I knew who the next guest is going to be to answer this question. I would have told you. But Belinda, thank you for coming through on the podcast. Where can we talk? How can we get the cards? Give us all those details as we close.
Okay. So the Can We Talk game is East Africa's #1 conversation game, and you can find all our 16 editions on our website, which is canwetalk256.com. You can also find us on Instagram at canwetalk256 _ between all the words. So _we_talk_256. You can also find us on Twitter, the same handle. TikTok, we're also there as Can We Talk 256, and then also on YouTube, where we've had some amazing people come on to play the Can We Talk game, and we're also known as Can We Talk 256 over there. Yeah, and thank you once again for inviting me. For We Need to Talk. We need to talk. Can we talk? Yeah.
Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Yeah.
The synergies here. Can we talk? We need to talk. We had a very
we did
good conversation.
First time I've talked about grief.
What did you say?
Yeah.
You almost,
I
you
saw
also
you.
almost got me to,
And then you just did a wee, a U-turn. You're like, nope, not going there yet.
Hey guys, thank you for listening in today's episode. I hope you picked a thing or two. And remember to subscribe to We Need to Talk podcast. These episodes are available on all podcast streaming platforms, but also on YouTube. Right now, currently, we're uploading these episodes onto YouTube channels. That's Gather Now Network YouTube channel and We Need to Talk podcast YouTube channel. So you can be able to watch this episode or these episodes wherever you feel comfortable. And yeah, follow us on all social media platforms. That's We Need to Talk podcast everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, and X. No, we haven't gotten on X. There is some build up that is happening on X. Maybe someday we shall be there. But yeah, thank you guys, and we hope to see you in the next episode. Until We Need to Talk more. Bye.
Bye.